The Shroud of Turin, the most studied object by science in the world. And this is the clearest you'll see it to date. I spared no expense. It is also the most misunderstood object in the world. So give me just a couple of minutes of your time to clear up the misconceptions in the church and in the world today on this mysterious object. In the 1980s, they did a radiocarbon test on the Shroud of Turin. It came back to the medieval time, 1260 to 1390. Today, people still think this date is valid, except it isn't. The science that has been done on this cloth now shows 4 scientific papers that this date was invalid. They found cotton in the sample, and in the raw data that they forced them to release in 2018 by Freedom of Information Act in the UK, they found out that the date actually changes by 200 years every 2 centimetres from that sample. It's also a different thermal colour completely from the rest of the shroud. We're looking at misconceptions about the Shroud of Turin under 2 minutes. Now I think this is the clearest image you'll see of the Shroud of Turin, and it's been done by AI technology. This one comes up quite often from the church, where in John's Gospel it says that Jesus was wrapped up in linen strips. However, Matthew, Mark and Luke use the word syndon in Greek, which literally translates as linen shroud. It's true that John unintentionally or intentionally missed out the word syndon, the word shroud, and one of the reasons he could have done this is so that it didn't draw attention to the cloth from the authorities at a time of great persecution for the church. We have to remember it was John who first believed after he saw the linen cloths. The rest of the disciples went home not knowing the scriptures and didn't know that Jesus had rose from the dead. So what made John believe by seeing the cloths? And he says cloths plural, and it's interesting he does that because there is a side panel on the Shroud of Turin that's obviously been cut off and then re-sewn back on using a 1st century Masada stitch pattern that has been identified by textile experts, probably used to tie the body. What's interesting is John also mentioned an egg cloth that was folded up separate from the rest of the cloths. There is an egg cloth called the Sudarium of Oviedo that's in Spain. This cloth looks as though it's been folded because it has a blood pattern. The blood pattern matches with the shroud by 120 points of congruence. Now it only takes 60 points of congruence to say it's the same person in a court of law. It's also a match by the limestone dirt found from Jerusalem, pollen and myrrh and aloes that have been found on both cloths, the Sudarium and the shroud. So we're looking at misconceptions about the Shroud of Turin. Now this part's going to absolutely blow your mind. I don't think I can keep it under 2 minutes because it's unbelievable and I've got to put everything on there. So it's easy to replicate the image. You just put it in a photocopy machine or print it out on your computer, but that's not what we're talking about. We're on about recreating the image with the same unique characteristics. There's been many attempts in the past to recreate the shroud image, this one in 2009. This was using pigments and acid, but as you can see it's nowhere near the high definition image of the shroud. Also it doesn't look as real, and it doesn't come close to the characteristics of the shroud. Some have even tried using powder to recreate the image, but I'll show you just one characteristic of the shroud that rules out powders, liquids, dyes and anything like that. The shroud image is an extreme, unique surface phenomena. The image itself is on the top surface of a fibril and is only 0.2 microns to 0.4 microns thick. To put that into perspective, that is 400 times to 900 times smaller than a human hair. So this rules out powder that would go far deeper into the fibrils. It also rules out any type of liquid, dyes or paint. And even a burn image would burn deeper into fibrils, not just on the top layer of a fibril. And even UV light would penetrate a lot deeper than 0.2 microns, making it impossible to create the Shroud's ultra shallow image. A team of scientists known as the STERP team had these conclusions. STERP found no evidence of any pigments, paints, dyes on the shroud that could account for the image. The image was not created by any known artistic materials or techniques. So that leaves us with only one question. What could account for the image and not penetrate deeper than 0.2 to 0.4 microns? That leaves plasma, radiation, corona discharge or gas. None of these can be used by an artist or a person, so that only leaves two things. Either it was caused by the resurrection itself, some kind of radiation, or a natural accident that we do not yet understand.